Hey everyone, I bet you're here because, like so many of us, you wish you could squeeze in just a little more reading time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Yeah.
We're taking a deep dive into some wisdom from booktuber Daniel Green, who's got a knack for sharing actionable tips to really level up your reading game.
Right.
We're not just summarizing.
Yeah.
We're pulling out the most surprising and useful nuggets to help you actually read more.
That's right. It's so true. The desire to read more is almost universal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're all searching for knowledge, for escape, for that feeling of getting completely lost in a good book.
Totally.
What I find fascinating about Green's approach is that he offers these really practical, down-to-earth ways to make reading a more integrated part of your life,
Right.
not just another item on an already overflowing to-do list.
Okay, so let's dive right in, Priestley. Green's first tip is all about audiobooks.
Uh-huh.
He's a huge fan of what he calls the two books at once strategy. Basically, he recommends having an audiobook going for those times when you're multitasking, like when you're commuting, doing chores, or even working out. Yeah. Then you save your physical books for those dedicated reading sessions when you can really focus.
That's great. It's brilliant because it recognizes that we don't all have hours to just sit and read.
Right.
This ties into Green's point about avoiding pointless scrolling. Think about how much time we lose to our phones every day
Oh, yeah.
by swapping even a fraction of that scrolling time for audiobooks. You're not just gaining knowledge, you're reclaiming your time and using it intentionally.
It's so true. I love that idea because it acknowledges that we lead busy lives.
Right.
But it also empowers us to make time for reading without sacrificing other things we enjoy.
Exactly.
What really surprised me was Green's suggestion that working out can actually make you a better reader.
Oh, really?
I'll admit, I was skeptical at first. Like, how are those two things connected?
Right.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive, but the science behind it is actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
When we exercise, we increase blood flow to the brain, which improves cognitive function, including focus and concentration.
Oh.
So after a good workout, you're not only physically energized, but your brain is also primed for a more immersive and enjoyable reading experience.
So it's like hitting a reset button for both your body and your mind.
Exactly.
Makes you want to grab a book and dive right in.
Yeah.
Green himself aims for 5 gym sessions a week to help him power through his reading.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying you have to become a gym rat to enjoy reading,
Right.
but it's interesting to consider how incorporating even a little bit of physical activity could enhance your reading time.
Absolutely. And this leads us to another one of Green's tips that really resonated with me. It's okay to find out DNF did not finish books, especially if you're reading for pleasure.
Yeah.
Now, I know this might sound a little controversial,
Yeah.
especially for those of us who grew up with required reading lists,
Right.
and that ingrained pressure to finish every book we start.
I used to feel guilty about DNFing books. It felt like admitting defeat somehow. But then I realized I wouldn't force myself to finish a meal I didn't like. So why do that with a book? Reading for pleasure should be enjoyable, not a chore.
Exactly. And Green actually suggests that forcing ourselves to read books we don't enjoy, especially in school, might be a big reason why so many adults claim to dislike reading.
That's interesting.
What's fascinating here is how deeply ingrained the idea of finishing every book is. But think about it. DNFing can actually prevent burnout and help keep that love of reading alive. It's like we're giving ourselves permission to be more mindful about our reading choices. And Green offers some really practical advice on how to actually do that.
Yeah.
He talks about the 50-page rule or even the one-chapter rule.
Oh, okay.
If a book hasn't grabbed you by that point, it's perfectly okay to let it go and move on to something you'll actually enjoy.
It's so liberating, right? It's like taking the pressure off and remembering that reading is supposed to be fun. This reminds me of another one of Green's tips, diversifying your reading diet. He's a self-proclaimed fantasy fanatic, but even he recognizes the importance of branching out and exploring different genres.
Yes, and this isn't just about preventing genre fatigue. It's about expanding your horizons and exposing yourself to new ideas, new writing styles, new worlds.
Right.
Green himself reads everything from classic sci-fi to contemporary fiction. He even encourages fantasy lovers to dip their toes into the world of sci-fi, suggesting titles like Stranger in a Strange Land and Fahrenheit 451 books that can be experienced in a whole new light when revisited as adults.
It's like adding different spices to your culinary palette, right?
Wow.
You might discover a new favorite flavor you never knew you loved.
Yeah.
Green also emphasizes the importance of diversifying not just the genres you read, but the formats as well.
Oh, right.
We're talking physical books, ebooks, audiobooks, the whole shebang.
He's definitely not on board with the whole audiobooks aren't real reading debate.
Mm-hmm.
His philosophy is if it gets you engaged with stories, it counts.
I love that.
And what's interesting is that our brains might actually perceive different formats as distinct experiences.
Really?
So switching between a physical book, an e-reader, and an audiobook could help prevent that feeling of burnout that can sometimes come from sticking to just one format.
It's like tricking your brain into thinking it's getting a fresh start.
Right.
Green mentions that he tries to split his reading time pretty evenly between these different formats. It's all about keeping things fresh and exciting.
Yeah.
But even with all these different options, there's still that age-old challenge of building reading stamina.
Right. It's just like physical exercise. The more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah.
Green talks about how he's worked his way up to being able to read 200 pages in a single sitting, which, let's be honest, sounds pretty impressive.
Wow. Yeah.
But the takeaway here is that it's a gradual process.
Okay.
And he offers a really cool hack for increasing your reading stamina. Change your location. Move from the couch to the bed to a cozy corner in your house, or even head out to a park or a coffee shop. Sometimes when we've been reading in one spot for a while, we start to get restless. It's almost like our bodies are craving movement.
That's so true.
It's like hitting the refresh button. By switching up our environment, we can trick our brains into feeling more alert and engaged.
Okay.
And this ties back to Green's point about pointless scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
That mindless scrolling can really suck the time and energy out of our day, often leaving us feeling drained and unfulfilled. So the next time you find yourself reaching for your phone out of habit, try reaching for a book instead.
It's true. It's a conscious choice to be more intentional with our time and attention.
Right.
Green even suggests that minimizing scrolling is one of the best things you can do to increase your reading time.
Absolutely.
Now, this next tip really surprised me. Green is a big advocate for incorporating physical activity into your daily routine, not just for the physical benefits, but for how it can actually boost your reading life.
I know, right? At first glance, it might not seem like exercise and reading have much in common.
Right.
But when you think about it, if you spend most of your day sitting at work, commuting, even relaxing at home, your body might actually be craving some movement.
That makes sense.
And by expending some energy earlier in the day, you're more likely to feel content and relaxed when you do settle down with a book.
Green himself is a runner. He says that a few miles on the treadmill or around the park helps him unwind and sets him up for a good reading session.
Oh, wow.
It's like that post-workout feeling of accomplishment translates into a greater sense of focus and motivation.
Exactly. And there's even a connection to self-discipline. When we challenge ourselves physically, we build that mental muscle of willpower, which can then help us stick to our reading goals. We're proving to ourselves that we have the ability to push through those moments of resistance.
Yeah.
You know those times when we're feeling lazy and would rather just veg out in front of the TV?
Oh, yeah. It's so true. We've covered a lot of ground here. Audiobooks, diversifying your reading, building stamina, minimizing distractions, and even adding in some exercise. But Green has one final piece of advice that he considers the most important of all. He really emphasizes the importance of being ruthless when it comes to DNFing. Did not finish books that just aren't doing it for you.
Yeah, Green's view is that life's too short to force yourself through a book that doesn't spark joy. And honestly, I think that's such a healthy perspective.
Totally. He even suggests that a lot of adults who claim to dislike reading might have developed that aversion because they were forced to read books they didn't enjoy in school.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's such a fascinating idea. Like maybe those required reading lists, while well-intentioned, actually ended up turning people off from reading altogether.
Right. It makes you wonder if maybe encouraging a genuine love of reading, even if it means letting go of those strict reading lists, might be a more effective way to foster lifelong readers.
Absolutely. It's all about nurturing that intrinsic motivation, that spark of curiosity that makes you want to keep turning the pages. And for those of us who maybe haven't picked up a book in a while, Green's advice is simple but powerful. Head to a bookstore or library, browse the shelves, and just see what catches your eye.
Yeah, don't overthink it. Just let your intuition guide you. See if a cover grabs your attention, or maybe a title intrigues you. Flip through the pages, read the back cover, and see if anything sparks that feeling of excitement.
And remember, there's no shame in abandoning a book if it's not working for you. DNFing isn't failure. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are precious and choosing to spend them on stories that truly resonate with you.
So there you have it, a whole toolbox of strategies from Daniel Green to help you unlock a richer reading life. From embracing audiobooks and incorporating exercise to diversifying your reading diet and giving yourself permission to DNF, there's something here for everyone.
Yeah. The key takeaway for me is that reading should be a source of joy, not a chore. So experiment with these tips, find what works for you, and make time for the stories that light you up.
Beautifully said. Green leaves us with a powerful reminder. Pick up a book that sparks your interest, reignite that love of reading, and never let anyone dim your enthusiasm for the written word.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Daniel Green's tips, I'd love to leave you with a final thought. What's one small step you can take today to enhance your reading experience? Maybe it's finally letting go of that book that's been sitting on your nightstand for months, or adding an audiobook to your daily commute. Whatever it is, take that first step and see how it transforms your relationship with reading.
Happy reading, everyone!